don't know what happens in the multiverse because we haven't been there. But according to quantum mechanics, many worlds interpretation says that things that can exist may exist someplace else. There could be copies of you asking a slight different variation of that very same question in another universe. I think about this when I take a shower at night. There could be another version of me that wanted to become a fireman, wanted to become an astronaut, and did not want to become a physicist. There are other worlds right here in our own backyard. This is called the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. It's one of the dominant interpretations of the quantum world. And in that world, possible worlds could exist. So when I look in the mirror, I'm not really looking at myself. I'm looking, first of all, at myself a billionth of a second ago, because that's the time it took for light to go from my face to the mirror and to my eye. So you never really see yourself in a mirror. But it's worse than that. You're really a wave of multiple realities, each wave going a different direction. And yes, Elvis Presley could be alive in one of those universes.
All right, well, I think on that note,
looking at the genetics of the aging process, biologically speaking, and I wouldn't be surprised if our grandkids have the option of hitting the age of 30 and stopping. They may like being 30 forever. So I don't rule this out now. This was once considered science fiction, but now we're beginning to understand the genetics of the aging process. What is aging? Aging is the buildup of air. That's what aging is. Air buildup. The second law of thermodynamics. But we have air correction mechanisms in the form of CRISPR technology. So one day, we may be able to live forever biologically or cybernetically. The neuroscience, which says nonsense. There's only neurons there. There's no soul. It's just neurons firing away. Now we're coming back to the Middle Ages. Because if we can digitize our consciousness, if we can digitize all our emotions and feelings, we can separate it from the human body. Our personality and everything known about our personality can be separate from the material body, and when one dies, the other doesn't have to die. So we're going back to dualism of the Middle Ages with computers. Computers allow us to separate the mind and the body. Jobs that involve micromanagement of fingers, manual dexterity, and eyesight. For example, robots cannot fix a broken toilet. The most advanced robot in the world cannot fix a broken toilet or pick up garbage. No robot on Earth can pick up garbage, because garbage occurs in too many varieties, too many forms. No robot can be an electrician, a carpenter, a gardener, a policeman. Robots cannot do any of those above tasks. Semi-skilled jobs requiring pattern recognition. And third, jobs that involve human interactions. Now let me tell you the good news and the bad news. The good news is this means the future will be cheaper, more convenient, easier, seamless, painless. That's the future. And the bad news, yes, there is some bad news. Oh. The bad news is, in the future, we will have lawyers. That's because only a human can argue to a jury, trialed by your peers. Your peers are not robots. Only a human can argue to a jury. Only a human can argue to a judge. Only a human can understand changing ethics and moral standards of society. Robots don't know any of the above. So those three kinds of jobs that involve human interaction, like mentoring, teaching, counseling, becoming a lawyer. Jobs that involve eyesight and manual dexterity, hand-eye coordination, like picking up garbage, police work, and then the highest level is intellectual work, that is creativity, innovation, analysis. These are three huge areas where robots simply fail. If you use the two, then you get into big trouble. When a scientist starts to pontificate about ethics and moral law, or when a religious person begins to pontificate about the solar system and natural law, that's when we get into trouble. But if we keep them separate, then I think there's no problem at all. And then Einstein was asked the question, do you believe in God? Einstein was very clear about this. He said there are two kinds of God, and you have to separate them. You have to be very careful when you use the term God. First, there's the personal God, the God that you pray to at Christmas time for that bicycle, the God that smites the Philistines and wipes out your enemies. Einstein did not believe that the creator of the universe cared that much about your bicycle at Christmas time or about smiting the Philistines. But Einstein did believe in the God of Spinoza. That is, the God of beauty, harmony, simplicity. It didn't have to be that way. You know, the universe could have been chaotic. The universe could have been random. It could have been a bunch of electrons and neutrinos rather than protons with atoms and consciousness. And so Einstein thought of himself as a little boy entering a library. In front of him was this huge library of knowledge. And all he could do was open the first volume, read chapter 1, verse 1, just the beginning, but in front of him was the library of physical law. So that's how he viewed the universe, that there was a God, but it wasn't a personal God that answers your prayers. It's the God of harmony, simplicity. It's the God of the universe itself.